Hi, this is Joseph. It's April 4th, 2019. Going to take a look at QQQ. Very interesting day. As you notice, we started out here in the yellow zone, which is the opening 1 minute range, and it ends there in the opening 1 minute range, which is the big gravity. It's where the market gets delivered. And on a range day like this, when it ends like that, where it opens, it's back at stasis. Basically, there wasn't enough of a catalyst to really move it out of the big gravity. It's kind of like price is kind of like an orbiting moon or an orbiting item around a body, like a planet or a star or whatever. It keeps coming back unless it gets enough velocity to break the orbit or falls below a certain velocity and falls toward the object like it did toward the end. But anyway, so there was a couple of classic tendencies today. I mean, it's a range day, which unlike a trend day, it's more patterns, a range day has more patterns that reoccur and more waves that reoccur. Unlike just a full-on trend, big order agenda flow day where they just hit the bio, goes off of a catalyst. So anyway, let's look at this interesting open. Let's see, it's kind of following through, not much of a gap or anything, just follows through that uptrend and heads on up. There was some, this is so crazy, this kind of stuff drives me crazy, but there was an article in the Wall Street Journal pre-market that said that the vice premier of China was going to meet with Trump today after his trade meeting with Lighthouser and Munchkin, and they might announce a summit where Xi and Trump will get together in China and announce a deal, settle on a deal. Well, that was just BS. They've been saying that for 4 months, and right after the open, I mean, that's where everybody, gorillas were hitting the buy buttons. Trade deal, good, buy. So 30,000 traders start buying it up. But then, I mean, almost immediately, there were other sources saying that's just not true. It's not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen inside people that really knew. So I was kind of suspect of the move. And anyway, and sure enough, it finally sank in, and this is what happened. But so when it's making an initial move, either up or down, you start looking around 9:45 which is right there. You start looking for them to ease out of that position and start thinking about 10:30 traders. And what kind of a move they're going to put on. That's the big session one, people that assess everything else before them and then put on a big move and then exit by usually around 11:15. So yeah, what do? They start selling into those buying, and point of control, when that point of control moves up, it's this purple line, which is off the volume profile. The point of control is where most trades at that time are taking, the level where most trades are taking place. So when that moves up, right when you have that 9:45, 9:50 zone off of an initial move, ideally you'd like the point of control to move there, because that's where there would be a big churn there, and that's what happens. And that's a heads up right there that a lot of people are coming out of their existing long positions and putting on new positions. You're not quite sure in general what direction that would be. You start looking to see which side this would be defended on, but knowing that it tends to urge toward neutral ahead of 10:30, I knew, and you would know too if you're in the tendency, that the high probability trade was going to be back toward neutral. So if X occurs, do X1. If Y occurs, do Y1. Imagine different scenarios. Take the one that confirms. That would be down, and it helps to imagine the high probability one first, which would be the down move back to neutral, because you might not have time to, if you're trading that or scalping that, to imagine the second one. So you imagine it going down, and that's what it did. And it heads right for the, you're looking for it to go to 50% of range in VWAP, and that's there. And it got there right away, and it paused. And then lately it's been going right on through to the opening 1 minute range. And in this case, that news was so profoundly different than what the Wall Street Journal had posted that it just kept going. And that was an excellent, look at that move. I mean, at the time it was, here's the day's range. So it was twice the day's range from the high to the low. So then 1030 rolls around. You don't quite know what those guys are going to do. So everybody tries to get a little neutral. So they start buying and they start covering into that selling, and because they want to do whatever the 1030 guys do, people, traders. And so the 1030 guys, they see all this and they go, hey, let's just push it back to gravity. So they push it back, and so everybody has to flip. Nice big candles in there. If you're aware of the tendency, then you just, if your bias at that point at 1030 is to do what the 1030 traders do, you would have bought that. And you might have said it's going to Hades, stay short. You can't, you got to let go of that. Your bias should not be short or long. It should be do what the 1030 traders do. Session 1 people. So they buy. I got a couple of signals in there. I got a couple. This is a strategy, a VW strategy, and this is a Sean Z strategy. I've got a few things running in here in the background that I like to see confirming what I'm doing. I don't trade off of them, but when they both click in like that, I know it's a really good, what I was thinking here going long is a really good idea. So anyway, pops up, goes right to the resistance. It goes right to VWAP, 50% range. There's a confluence here. Price moves from confluence to confluence. So sometimes the confluence is a time zone, like this 1030 point. And here we have an 11 o'clock. The 1030 people like to put on a move and then exit 11:15, ideally. And that's what they do. They put on the 1030 move. This is total tendency. Then they exit 11:15. So where do they target? They target the confluence, the 50%, the VWAP, which is the grade cross, 50% range. The gold dots are right in there too. The resistance of the opening 1 minute range. That's 3 strong magnets or gravity points. So they target it. They go right up there and they put a sell tier on it, in front of it, and behind it. And when it starts to turn, the ones that are above it, they were trying to get a better price, but they don't want to be left behind. They want to get filled. So they collapse down with a market order, a market sell, and that's what gives you that candle right there and this signal right here. See the double signal? Here's the VW strategy doing these big arrows, and the little triangle is the Sean Z Bollinger Band 2 optimized. So they do the 11:15 covering, and you just do it. You just do what they do. They buy here, they sell here. You do that. So, and if you know the tendencies, you're going to know where they're going to do it. How do you get ahead of signals on a chart that are always trailing? You have to know the tendencies. You have to be able to imagine the high probability scenario. So that's the value of a wave force and time zone trading. But so 11:15. Look at them take profits and run there, and so they sell. So this is a cycle, 10:30, 11 to 11:15, and after that it goes into what they call lunch zone, low probability till 1:15, which is over here. So it's going to do whatever it's going to do. But often this wave, this move, the counter move to the initial trend, in this case down, because the initial trend was up at 9:45, 9:50 to 10:10 generally, is wave 1 of a 5-wave move, high a day to low a day in the opposite direction. That's the often tendency, the high probability, the probability tendency that happens more times than not, or enough to take notice. It happens at the top or the bottom. So this is what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right in here, there was a little 5 up, as a matter of fact. If you're into wave force and you can see little waves, I'm looking at things on faster time frames, so these waves are more pronounced. So anyway, where does it come up to? This time, comes right up to the sell tier that hangs out below the opening 1 minute range, and then point of control. So what confirms that it's a shoulder in there, or consolidation, is when the point of control moves to it. So it's a significant level. When you look back, this all looks different. Everything looks different than when it's actually developing. It's actually much more clear as it develops, if you know what you're looking for. So when it comes up, point of control comes down. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, and when that comes on, it doesn't go above it. You'll start looking at which side defends from that point of control, which new orders that are being put on are stronger, bigger, and are going to push, and that's down. See that wick right there? They push it down quick. So that's a sign that they want to sell, and they do. And then right here, actually, when it starts to come back up in there's there's another shoulder, another consolidation, price moves to it. Whenever you got two things like that, that's like essentially that's between wave 1 and 2, 3 and 4, because you have like two of those horizontal consolidations, if you know what I mean. So then it puts in a 5 all the way down to here. Kind of tired of it. I'm going to go through everything and why it stopped there and everything, but notice the inverted head and shoulders that forms there. Often a 5 wave. It's just 5 wave force. It's not Elliott. It's 5 pushes. It's they put on a move, they unwind. They put on a move, they commit, they unwind. So they commit, unwind, commit, unwind, commit. That's 5 wave force. It has to do with the underpinnings of Elliott, but it's not anything to do with the Elliott wave mathematical not anything to do with the math. Sorry, I'm tired. But so anyway, it puts the 5 waves down. It inverts the right shoulder. That's what you're looking for. If you just know 5 wave force into head and shoulders at tops and bottoms, you'll see a high percent of what's happening in the market. I can find that in here on a small time frame and a tick frame all over the place. So anyway, then it hits the bottom. So then you're looking to 115. So at 12:45, that's when the position holders, in this case shorts, start thinking about 115 and where neutral is from where they are now, and how are they going to get there? When are they going to get there? They're going to get there starting right now, just like they do here at 9:45, 9:50. Tends to. Doesn't always happen. Might move back here, might move back there, might not happen at all. But it's the urge that you're looking for. It's the tendency at which you gauge and weigh what's actually happening, and you're looking for it to happen, and you're trading it. But anyway, so these guys start buying right there into the selling 9:45 or 12:45, and they push it. There's a channel. They're trying to push it right there between the VWAP and the 50% of range at 115, which is right there. They don't quite make it. If it was really choppy and sluggish, these shorts were not willing to give it up. There was a lot of stubborn retail. This whole last section is basically retail, and they don't like to give it up until they absolutely have to. So smart money, big money, alert money, both of them, and then when it gets to about here, retail starts seeing it, starts coming in. So they get harvested in the first retrace, and you can run the legs in here, looking for, whenever you have a big leg like that, I run the fibs in there, I run the volume profile in there, and start looking for the point of control in there just to see if it's down here and where the churn is it going to hold, is it going to go up? Anyway, goes up, tries to get to there, doesn't quite make it, but what happens is that you're looking for a wedgie pin at 115 to occur. You're looking for an apex, and you got one, 115 right there. Then you start boxing. It was really choppy and slow, so I wasn't. They had such a good move at 10:30 session 1. When that happens, they often alternate being good. It's either good in the morning and good in the afternoon. If it's super good, might be okay on both of them, an okay move. Or if it's like a giant move like this and they made a ton of money, only 50% of them come back anyway. And if they already did that great, why would they come back at all? So I was waiting for some real movement and confirmation in there. And it just this is a 5-minute chart. So it was like 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 40. It was like nothing really happened right there. You're looking for something to happen, but it just did this little thing. It was just kind of choppy. This whole thing was choppy. So frankly, I was just waiting for it to pick up, break out of the chop, and see. I was watching tick and the runners. Moments like this, you look around the market. That's what they're doing. You look all the way around the market, fundamentals, the runners, et cetera, et cetera. You wait for something to pop, like tick. And if tick takes off and pops, like here, you see this resistance finally pops. And the good thing about a consolidation is that it's building a volatility squeeze. Anyway, the Bollinger Bands are coming inside the Kellners, and it's getting apexy, and then it's going to have to release, and it does. So that you just keep building the box out further. You keep building the apex out further until something gives. And so you might just keep rebuilding it in there, keep stretching this box out until it breaks, and there it does. And look at that, nice sweet move. Blazes, it paused here for a second in the zone between VWAP and 50% range, but then it kept on going right up to the resistance line. There's a little stop there that was, there's a sell tier there, kind of bounced around in there, but it kept on going to the resistance line of the opening 1 minute range. And then, so anyway, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish. 5 failed, we ran out of time, and it got stuck at that sell tier at the bottom of the opening 1 minute range, but the force was there. Often there's like attempts to do a 5. If it doesn't make it, it's a 5 fail and puts in a right shoulder. But in this case, it just ran out of time. But anyway, it was great. It was a stasis flat day, basically, overall. But there was some great tendency in there. This down move started when it should have, and it put on a great move. It did do the 5 waves down. It turned around where it's supposed to, went back up to the 115 apex and boxed in and did 5 waves up, basically. So these signals were pretty right on in here today, indicating kind of the turns of the waves. Let's see. Yeah, they're okay. But if you know what tendency is coming, you're in front of those. You're in front of everything. Or you're expecting it. Well, how you trade it's another thing. But anyway, that's enough for today.